interview made on Wednesday, September 15th, 1971, with D. Lawrence Carlson, brother of former Mayor Samuel A. Carlson of Jamestown.
Sailing. I drowned, when I was out sailing one time up at Chautauqua Lake. It
You
was a terrible
drowned?
storm. I had bought a big, I took helped a fellow out, and I got a big Swedish boat that he had built, according to the kind of boats that they had in Stockholm Harbor. It had a big, heavy keel on it, lead keel, so you couldn't go to shore any place it was necessary.
Yeah.
And we were going to race the Chautauqua gang up there. We were going to have races at Chautauqua.
Yeah.
So the old Packard had an old colored fella that worked for them, and we had that boat up at the Chautauqua, the Chautauqua Club, we call it then, the Chautauqua Boat Club now.
The yacht club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, boys, if you go out today, you better reef your sails. So I reefed my sails 2 points, and I made the trip from that boathouse up there to Bemis Point in one tack.
Oh, my.
Yeah, and the wind was blowing, I want to tell you. So when we got in up by Thomas Point in that narrow there, I couldn't go to shore, so I had to let the mainsail down and steer, try to keep it going with the jib sail.
Yeah.
And I had 2 boys with me. One was Paul Lundquist. He just died, I guess. He's down Fort Island. And another fellow by the name of Warner Morris. Well, I told the boys, I don't think we ought to go out and sail in this kind of weather, but there was a big husky fellow came along in blue jeans, and he said, what's the matter, you fellas yellow? We couldn't swallow that, so we decided we'd start out. Well, you've been up to Chautauqua, you know, right below the tower, there's a kind of a little bay there.
Yeah.
The wind was blowing right on down the lake, but the old booms were jibing over our heads, we were ducking, you know, and having an awful time. So we started out, and we crossed the lake all right, but then we had to head into the wind.
Yes.
Well, that wind was so strong it blew some fellas right off their dock. And old Larson, he was a art man down there. They had an art store over on 2nd Street. He was out fishing up where we had our cottage in Sherman's Bay, and he couldn't get to shore before he landed way down in Sauron, 10 miles down below. He couldn't get to shore
that
either.
must have been a great wind.
We headed into that wind, and the waves were so high they went right over the top deck, you know, and they filled the cockpit. And the boys were shoveling into the bay and water all they were good for, and they couldn't keep up. So finally the darn thing sunk, and we 3 on there. We were hanging out just like a couple of kids shooting up for a baseball game, you know, with that old 35-foot spar on that table.
Oh, boy.
And Warner got a hold of a tire that we had there, but the doctor said he didn't drown. He simply, his heart gave out. And Paul, he stripped there, he did in his DVDs, but I had to sit there hanging on to the runner, the tiller there, and so I couldn't undress at all. I had the slippers on, and finally when we went down, I was all dressed in that wind. I was a good swimmer, but it was terrible, that wind. So, and the waves were so high that they were just concave, you know. You come up under them, and the waves would break right over your head.
That's really unusual.
And so a fellow came out there, and just in time when I was going down the 3rd time, and he pulled me up and I hit the big waves once in a while, and I'd bump up, you know, and kind of come through a little bit. And they finally got me on the dock there at Chautauqua, and old Dr. Grosbeck was there, and he began to monkey around with me, just trying to see what was wrong with me. He said, does anybody want any whiskey? Whiskey in Chautauqua.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
He'd pour up enough whiskey there to sell the room right then. And then once in a while he'd say, what's the matter with you? I'd come through a little bit, because he said I was dead part of the time. He said, what's the matter, are you teetotaler? Teetotaler? I said, my God, I've got half of that lake on my deck here. I've got to take it, I think, more down there.
Oh, my, what an adventure. About when was that? Back in the 1920s or 30s?
Yeah, that was back there when
was that around the time your sister died?
About my mother died, I think.
I see.
He was born in 1886, and I was born in
86. 80, and you were 86.
I'm an old man, 85 years old.
Well, how many of your family went to college, or did it, went beyond high school, or?
I don't think any of them went through high school even.
Oh, Sam didn't go through high school?
I don't think so. I just got to high school when I had to go to work. I was 14 years old.
Yes, but didn't you finish high school?
Well, I had to
get the
take high school
equivalency
when
here.
I was working in
Yeah.
the factories there, sawed off some fingers here, thumbs and fingers in the factories there,
Yeah.
bandsawing and carving and things
Huh.
like that, but I was out till I was about 19 years old, I guess, 5 years out there, but I had to go back and take my high school work up there.
Then you did 4 years, or did you
Then
do
I
it
took the
quicker?
3 years high school
3
business,
years, yeah,
got through with that, and then I took my A.B., got my Bachelor of Arts
Where'd you do that?
at Greenville College down near St. Louis.
In
Illinois.
In Illinois, yeah.
And then I went from there to the University of Wisconsin and took law.
Oh, that's where you did your law work.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
my.
I'm a member of the bar of the state of Wisconsin.
You went, but you came back here.
Yeah.
You didn't work in Wisconsin, or practice law
I swung hash in
while you were going to school.
Yeah.
Yes.
and I wrote my briefs. I bought an old typewriter, an old Oliver that you couldn't see the way you can see now. And I pound that off the classes it would work, and I'd
Wow.
make copies and I'd sell it to the other law school. They
Oh.
didn't run me all night.
While you were in
and
law, and you did
I
the
sell my
school.
briefs.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
They probably were better than they could have written themselves. Then you came back here. About when did you come back to town?
I
then?
came back, I was admitted to the bar here. I had to spend a year back here because when I was at Wisconsin, I claimed residence out there so that I wouldn't have to pay any tuition in the
Oh,
university.
sure.
I became associate librarian in the law library out there.
Oh.
So
While you were going to school.
yeah,
I see.
I had to read Latin for some of these fellas. A lot of law that came from the civil law of Rome
Right.
and the Code of Napoleon.
Yeah.
And I had about 7 years of Latin. I got way up there, and in Greek I read one of the finest briefs, law briefs you could ever read. It was during the period of the 30 tyrants in Greece.
Here?
I started my law practice in 1914.
1914.
I was admitted to the bar.
Yeah. So then we can.
So I practiced for 57 years, I guess, over half a century.
You have your fingers on every legal thing going on, I'll bet. Well, so then did you enter into any involvement with your brother's career
No.
at this time?
No.
Or you weren't in any of the city government at all?
No,
when he was
I
mayor?
never eaten out of the public trough.
No,
I'm not liable to it.
But you said that you did help him with some of his campaigns
Well,
in some way.
when I came back from the university, I became county chairman here of the Republican Party.
Oh,
They took me over to Dunkirk, and they had or Fredonia, and they had all these big fellas from Dan Reed down there, and I didn't know what I was over there for. And they had a young Palmer that later became the judge of the family court. I knew his father, Nelson Palmer, too, and he made a nice speech. He was telling about what a rotten time they had there. They had Jack Leonard there, and he was guilty of appropriating some trust funds and law business, and it didn't have a good name. And so they said, we've got to have a man here that's not tied up with anybody, not obligated to the banks or anybody else on mortgages or so on.
Yeah.
And when he got through, he said, we have such a man, and then he referred to me.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I don't want that job. I don't know anything. I had 3 girls going at that time there, and I had the county chairman until in the 30s.
Oh, in the 30s you became, this was.
Austin LeMay was the fellow with the boss here at that time.
Oh, he was? Oh,
He was
of the party.
and McGinnis up in the other. They had two
divisions of the party, sort of, or 2 sections of the county with the north and south.
One was the first and the second
I see.
division. What was the term they called it?
I'm not precinct or
No.
ward? I don't
And
know.
so they, later on they wanted me to run for mayor. They said it was he and Algert Lawson. Algert Lawson was the president of the Art Meadows at that time, and the big Zionist here.
And this was in the 30s, after your
So I
brother
said,
was...
I have nothing doing. I won't run for... I came home and what did I say then? They wanted me to take the...
Yeah, the chairmanship of the
I took
county
the chairmanship.
chairmanship.
I finally took the chairmanship of the party. And I went around and I found how crooked they were here. I helped to put young Lee Ottaway into the Supreme Court justice job, and O'Connor, he didn't know whether he ought to go or not. I said, come on. And he went up to old McGinnis.
The one
got him to line up
who's
there.
the judge now, O'Connor.
Yeah. And we got him, he was named district attorney at that time, and then he became judge afterwards. And these fellas, if I came around, they'd ask me questions about this. For instance, over in Silver Creek, he said, county chairman? We haven't seen a county chairman around here for 20 years.
Oh, my.
And I get up to Westfield, and this old fellow that's publishing the Republican up there, Huey Thompson, he said, what do you want now? I said, I don't want anything. He said, you fellas elected me county chairman. I said, I thought I'd come around and find out what kind of an organization this is. It seems to be a protoplastic outfit that falls apart by virtue of its own weight, I said. But I'm glad you asked that question, I said, because you don't have any confidence in me.
Yeah.
And I said, if you've got somebody that you'd like to be county chairman, you trot him out here and you can have my resignation so doggone fast you'll make your head swim.
Right.
And I went around all over the Austria. What are you traveling around the county for? I said, I'm chairman of the Republican organization here. I'm going to find out what kind of an organization this thing is.
Sure.
Well, he was boss. He hung on to all the money and everything like that. He was the fellow that raided with the politicians down in Albany and so on.
Oscar Linnaeus.
Yeah.
Well, now, when your brother was mayor, and the earlier middle years of his career, did he deal with the Republican Party pretty much, or was he more of an independent?
He was an independent, but I don't know how it started out. But you said you read this book here.
I read The Saga of the City. That book.
Yeah, where he tells about kind of a government he was in favor of. Started this municipal court, and before they had what they call the city court, and there's an old policeman by the name of Maharan that was supposed to be the judge there, but his daughter was the brains of that. She ran that court for him.
What is his name?
Maharan, an old Irishman, M-A-H-A-R-O-N, I think.
Yeah.
And so they created this new court, the municipal court.
And this was about when? Do you have any idea? Well, I can find it, but there had never been a municipal court before. No. This is why your brother was mayor. Yeah.
And he was going to name a corporation council and a municipal judge.
Appointment.
Yeah. And so he had Ned Green in mind for corporation council, and he had Ernest Cockcroft in mind for the judge. Mm-hmm. I said, Sam, you're all wet on that. Cockcroft hadn't any initial mind. He's such an active fellow, he makes much better executive. I said, put him in his corporation council. But Ned Green is the more slow, patient sort of a fellow, and he'd make a better judge. Yeah. So he switched, and that's the way Cockcroft was named corporation council.
That's how he got in, started working closer with your brother in city government.
It became corporation council. Mm-hmm. He also wrote the charter.
Yes, that's what I read. But this was the first charter the city had, or was it a revision of the original charter?
Well, it was
I have to read that.
I think it was really a new charter that he wrote. I'm not sure about that. But,
well, I'll have to read that. There was a copy of that at City Hall, I'm sure. But he wrote that. He was...
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now...
formerly, he was a newspaper man.
Cockcroft?
Yeah.
Oh, and then he went to law school, law training?
Yeah. And he was a good speaker, too.
Was he?
Oh, he could get up and speak extemporaneously on impromptu, something like that.
Now, talking of him and Robert Jackson and your brother, and maybe you were involved, I've read references that they had this real big debating society called the Saturday Night Club.
Oh, I was a member of it.
Well, tell me about that.
They called me the Crown Prince.
Oh, well.
Sam was the king.
That sounds like something that would be interesting to know more about.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any written records of that?
No, I don't think so. I've got an old paper I had to write one time on autonomy. After the First World War there.
Now, when did this meet? From about the time you came back and started law practice until through the 20s and 30s? Because,
we used to meet over at the Northern Club sometime. I was president of the Northern Club, too. And then we used to meet up in the Eagle Temple. And one thing that Cockcroft did, he arranged for Sunday afternoon speeches, and he had outstanding men from all over the country come up there. And that old Eagle Temple dance hall was always filled with outstanding men.
The Eagle Temple?
It's up on the corner of 4th and Washington.
And that's the same place? I mean,
that's the old Eagle Temple. Cockcroft really ran that place. He was a real guy, all right.
Well, now,
he got mad one time because Frank Mott was going to come home. He'd been named as treasurer or something like that, and fellas thought that they'd have a band come down there and meet him at the station and march up there. And Casey Jones was the fellow that was in charge of that. So Clayton Jones, he's a lawyer, did too. And he went down and they met him and they marched him up through the streets, and they had that band playing. And after they got through Carlson, they were going to pay for that.
Oh.
He understood he was to be paid for it. So he went over to Casey and asked him for pay. Well, he said, I'll tell you what you do. You just go up and see Cockcroft. He'll take care of that. Cockcroft didn't have anything to do with it. He was mad at the
Oh,
and yet that triumvirate, Bert Briggs and Casey Jones and Cockcroft, they were the funniest gang you ever saw.
And they were all lawyers.
Briggs was a newspaper man.
Oh,
but
Briggs.
I put on when I was president, at the end of the term, I put on a gridiron show over there because they were trying Chief Johnson for some scandal or something. They charged him with no picket. It was declared picket.
In town here.
Yeah. And so we put on I put on a gridiron show, and we worked out a sketch for that. And we had fellas like Bob Jackson and Cockcroft and Casey Jones and Judge Rexford and a whole outstanding bunch of fellas that could add live thing like that. Oh, they had the time of their life. And so later on, the Kiwanis wanted to have something, do something so they could make a little money. And I suggested it right after that I'd been running this what do you call it?
Yeah, the gridiron show.
Gridiron show at the Northern Club. And that was during the temperance time there. So they were having the best time up there. We had a few fellows that were supplied the boys with something to drink, to make a meeting it kind of interesting. And they'd have the time that people would walk by and they'd look up at that old club. You didn't know the Northern Club building.
No.
Like where the federal post office is now. And they were, what's going on up there? And the fellows, they were having such a good time that they didn't want to quit. I said, well, yeah, we got to have to put this thing on here. We run out of our term. We don't have any reason for having this show. And so finally got that put on there. And I told the boys in Kiwanis that they better put on the gridiron. And they had gridirons on for years. And people all over the county would come in. That hotel dance hall up there would accommodate all the people up there.
And they became public performances then. People could
they were public.
And this was the kind of
So I suggested that to the boys that, well, let's put on a gridiron. Well, we had two fellows in the Kiwanis. One was Roy Bates, and the other one was Tyler. Bates was a lawyer, and Tyler was a dentist. And they had both been in the kind of show business a certain amount. So we said, you fix up a program here and put on this thing here. And then we had a fine gridiron chorus. Art Carlson was at the head of that. And so that ran for a long time. And then finally it dried up. They didn't have any.
Well, you sort of run out of...
We ran out of the guys that we had there.
And
this fella that I told you about that outlived all me.
Well, then this was always a kind of a takeoff on the political and the people in town. You make fun of them and stuff like that. Like they still do in Washington. Don't they have a gridiron thing, the newspapermen every year? Well, tell me a little bit more about, we got into the Corporation Council business now. Sam had several of these. And you mentioned on the phone he appointed Arthur Kettle, Corporation Council.
I said that when he became, and you read that, and if you read this,
I haven't read
his own autobiography, where he began to talk about good government, what good government was and all that sort of stuff. Sam, he became interested in this nonpartisan business. They want to give proportionate representation even to minorities.
Yes, I read that.
This idea here of having an electoral college there and having 51 votes Republican and 49 Democrats and then making the electoral college altogether Republican. That wasn't right.
No.
And he brought that down and he said, we'd have no business for county government anywhere around here. That was back in the days of horse and buggy days. But now we've got communications. All we need is the state government and the city government. There's no need of duplicating all these jobs, city treasurer and a county treasurer and all these different jobs that they have. They could save a lot of money. You'll find that in that autobiography.
Yes, I've read that.
And that's what he's in favor of. So, when Old Side Jones offered the city the that plot over there, it was tied in that they could have it provided they put up a municipal hospital there.
I see.
Well, they had to level it all some. That was quite
Even a higher hill than it is now.
And an awful lot of sand. So Sam conceived the idea of paving the streets. We had a brick factory down here, and we made all the bricks, and he could use all that sand for concrete base, you know, and so that's why a lot of the streets in the city were paved.
Well, then was this a city-owned street paving concern?
This is
that
the
he
street,
brought in, was not let out to a private
No,
company.
they had their public, they had the public, what do they call it now? Fellows that take care of the streets, highway?
Public service or
something like that.
Maintenance.
They had something like that.
Department of Public Works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the city did all that work.
The city,
It wasn't let out by contractors at all.
And so while he was mayor, a good many of the streets were paved.
Oh, yes. You'll find that in there.
It's in there, yeah.
In that autobiography.
Yeah.
And he also, you read about his connection with getting his water power business going in the city here.
Yeah, the water.
And you also got in touch with buying out that electrical system.
Yes, in the 30s, yes, after he
making that
was
go.
re-elected, yeah.
And he had some struggles with he was interested in pure milk and pure water.
That was interesting, that milk plant.
This milk business,
yeah.
he said, I saw that phlegmatic stuff and that is nothing for people. And when I was a kid, they used to peddle milk twice a day.
Oh.
And I'd run my legs off to get home so I could drive our milk peddler's horse because he was branded. He was supposed to be a Westerner.
Oh.
And I don't know how true it was, but he could run like the dickens. And you couldn't put a straight bit in his mouth. You had to get one of these things so you could yang and forward. You had a straight bitty take it in his teeth and walk off with it.
Yeah.
And he figured that if you had a city plant, instead of having 4 or 5 milk peddlers running up and down the streets, you'd have one bus that go up there and serve everybody right along there and cut down expenses and everything else.
But that never
That
got
he paid
through.
in that.
Well, now,
One of the fellows that worked with him very hard on that was Carl R. Nelson. He'd been in the milk business too.
and he felt it was a good sound idea.
Oh yeah, they were working, but they couldn't get to it.
Well, the people just, or was there a lobby against them? That is, of
Well, I
the
can't
private
tell
milk
you.
owners, do you think?
I can't tell you that. I don't know how that was.
Or,
Because some of these fellows had their own farms, you know, and they delivered their own milk.
well, they could deliver it to the city plant.
Sure.
I mean, they wouldn't be out there, their profit, I wouldn't think, or their means of livelihood. Then he also, as I read when he was first elected, now you weren't in town at that time, try to get the telephone company.
They had a heck of a time with them, with old John Wright and A.C. Wade was their attorney, and they had an awful time with him. That was the time, and there's something in there about his filibustering. He had to get old John G. Wicks, his corporation counsel, down to Albany to get something through. But he had to hold the council up so that they couldn't act on it for a while, and he stood there and read the whole city charter.
That's what yes, I remember reading that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So he was pretty smart politically. I mean, when he had something that he felt was important for the city.
But the bad thing one time was he ran for Congress several times.
Oh, he did?
And I was county chairman, and I was with Dan Reed. I thought Dan Reed was a pretty decent sort of fellow. And then later on, Sam came out and ran, and I was between the devil and the deep.
Yeah, I guess so.
I said to Sam, I can't renege on Dan here now. I said, that's all right, go ahead. We put Lee Ottaway in as Supreme Court judge. There was another gang here that formed a party that a non-partisan figured Wilson Price and the judges around and everybody were kind of sore at Lee, and they were against him. And I found out that they had circulated petitions all around down here, and Chadwick and Hanson had gone around and told these people they had a bunch of petitions and asked them to sign, and all these committeemen signed up, and they thought they were signing up for
the Republican
for Lee. And when I said, Lee, we're going around and see these committeemen. And we got in the car and we went around, and Lee said, we can't do anything with that guy. What's the matter with you? So we went around and we told these people that, did you sign up for what Chadwick and Hanson wanted? You didn't sign up for leave. We didn't. And they were mad as a chicken. They never want to change that altogether. And so I told Lee, I said, I wouldn't worry about that. You got the whole north end of the county. Your old uncle, Arthur B. Ottaway. Everybody thinks the world of him. And I said, we can beat this gang down here. So I went up and I got an undertaker by the name of Youngberg. He had formed an organization, and he came out for Pierce over in Cattaraugus County. That's in our senatorial district here. Yeah. And he beat this gang here, the committeeman in town here, and Oscar Lenate's gang, and put Pierce in. He was an old Indian-looking sort of a fellow. And he was in a good many years. I think he was a good man, too. But when I got my gang up there, this younger gang, these cheap politicians standing around there smoking the cigarettes on the corner, they didn't know what had struck the town, whether it was a whirlwind or a cyclone or something like that, because my people had all these people that were home in and had been voted before these fellows knew what was going on.
Yeah, well, it is.
And we put them in.
Yeah.
So.
Well, now did Sam run for Congress after he was mayor?
No, not after he quit mayor business. When he got through mayor business, he was through then.
Oh, he wasn't in any other office.
He was getting into the point when he was getting kind of forgetful and a little senile. I used to take care of all his business. I used to go up there every Saturday and take care of the women that were working for him. He stayed right home there. He died in his home.
And he lived in Lakewood.
Lakewood,
yeah.
And when the night that he died, he had a premonition, I think, because he wanted me to stay there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I said, Sam, if anything happens, you've got both Mrs. Granger here, and you've got Mr. Junior's here, and they've got a nurse around here to get me. I'll come right up.
Yeah.
So that's the way that happened.